When Bill asked me to speak on this topic about life-work balance and managing a successful business, I thought, really? In 15 minutes? Okay, I'll give it my best shot. So I'm going to just offer some suggestions for some things that help me to stay into balance. And balance means a lot of things to a lot of people. And a lot of times customers come to me because they have something very out of balance in their, maybe they're working 80 hours a week and they don't like it anymore and they don't know how to get off of that track. So you may be in a position where you think, what is life work? What do you mean? What are you talking about, life works balance? I can't keep my head above water, whether it's financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, lots of different things. So one of the things that we focus on is emotional intelligence. Many people say, I kind of get what that is, but I'm not 100% sure what it is. To kind of demystify it, it's 4 basic components. And the first one is really being self-aware. We tend to rush past this because we don't often like what we feel when we're self-aware. We might come up against a tremendous amount of fear or anger or something, and we want to rush past that. And one of the ways we do that is to rush past it in our head, rush past it to trying to get to a solution really quickly, and sometimes that isn't the best way to do it. So being self-aware may mean that the first thing I notice is, am I in fear? Or am I in a space of curiosity and compassion? And when we're in curiosity and compassion and we're really self-aware, we're asking ourselves questions like, what am I feeling? What do I want? And we're listening to all the different voices that have to do with that. When we're not in that sense of empowerment, we may be feeling a little bit like a little kid. And we'll hear ourselves saying things like, I have to, I need to, I ought to, I should, I can't. And those are really good indicators for us to recognize when something's out of whack in our life. Just even listening to our language and listening to the way our bodies feel, that sort of thing. This is a scene from one of my favorite movies. It's called How Do You Know? And this is a scene with Reese Witherspoon. She was a semi-pro baseball player, and she gets cut from the team, and she's trying to decide whether she wants to go see this psychiatrist. And she gets there and decides that she doesn't want to be there, and this is what happens. So it is simple. It's simpler than you know to know what you're feeling and what you want. You have to take a breath. Sometimes it's nanoseconds where a whole array of voices are going through your mind. But if you don't slow down, you won't access the deepest voices, which are your wisdom. And so after self-awareness is being able to manage yourself, being able to go to that next step of not only knowing what I feel and what I want, but how do I actually learn to ask for it, like he says in that little clip. It also means that you're managing your mood, you're managing how you want to experience life, you're managing whether you live in purpose or not. Are you optimistic, or do you have a bad attitude? Are you in the crabitude, somebody said one time. And it's also, deciding if I'm going to choose happiness. Am I going to choose some things what am I going to do to help myself be encouraged and to be self-motivated? What is it that is in the way of me taking the actions in my life that I want to take? Then the third one is really being able to be aware of other people. And so that, or you could just say, I don't want to hear, I don't want to see, I don't want to know. Many people, you can think about the consequences when people aren't self-aware and they aren't self-managing and they aren't aware of other people. It's kind of like a bull in the china shop. And they're doing things that are cause and effect that they're not paying attention to. As opposed to really knowing how to do exchanges with people and really see and understand what's going on in other people. And then the fourth step, and these do have to happen in this order, it's just not possible otherwise, and that is to be able to manage relationships well. To be either part of the problem or part of the solution. Be collaborative, learn how to really read the politics, be an influence in life instead of being at the mercy or the victim of life, that sort of thing. So I want to ask you guys some questions. Knowing that part of what helps us to be in balance is to really be able to know what we feel and what we think. What's the most important relationship for us to manage? Anybody, just yell it out. Ourselves, right, absolutely. We kind of just talked about that self-awareness, that self-management. Now that requires about 1/3 of our time. Because, like, for example, I'm going to Dan about my health concerns. It takes time out of my schedule. I have to take time to, record what I'm eating and to, take some time to exercise. There's lots of places where we need to manage ourselves that we want to invest the time and the resources to do that. So let's say you've done that really well, and you want to live a life of balance, and you want to live a life that's fearless. What's the next most important relationship for you to have a handle on in order to do that? What do you guys think? Go ahead and yell it out. Anybody? No. Your spouse? Anybody else?
Relationship with God.
Relationship with God. Anybody else? You're a little bit on track on this one. It's actually any issues that you have with authority. Because if you want to be a leader in your own life, which is what you have to do to be able to be in balance, you have to work through the places that you're fearful around authority. Sometimes authority could be actual bosses. It could be the IRS. It could be your customers. Maybe an authority figure in your life that you're afraid of. And so if you can't speak the truth, if you can't ask for what you want, if you can't feel fearless with that, it's going to affect your ability to be your own person. And that should take about a fourth of your time, just working through all of that. Let's say you've got those two things handled. What's the next relationship that's most important for you to be able to manage effectively, to be effective in your own life, to be a leader in your own life? What do you think? Peers, yes, absolutely. It's the people that maybe they don't have any power over you, but they can sure make your life miserable, right? And that should take about a quarter of your time, making sure that you have all that in place. And when you think through your life, you know, you might be thinking of some things, well, I don't have that worked out. Well, yeah, that authority figure, I don't have it worked out. So 83% of the time, the work that you need to do to be in life-work balance is really in your own yard. So if you want to have a life of balance, if you want to be fearless, this is one of my favorite sayings, you want to mind your own business. Like at Colby Co., where Eric is from, they have it on the wall somewhere, you know, stay in your own yard, mind your own business. So one of the ways we mind our own business is to really pay attention to whether we are in a state of empowerment. We always have power. We always have choices, but there are times that we think in our mind that we don't have choices. And we call this other-directed. And other-directed doesn't mean I'm like Mother Teresa, where I'm all about others. That's why we put a little pole through her head. Other-directed means that I'm feeling those feelings that have me saying I have to, I need to, I ought to, I should. And when we're in that state of mind, we are going to react to things as opposed to respond, because we're going to do something in a more of a knee-jerk manner. These authority figures that we think we have to answer to might not even be alive anymore. They may be people that are in our head that says, if you do this, you're going to go you know where. Or it might be something our parents said that scared us. Or it could be real authority figures that we're facing. When we're in this mindset, one of the ways we can react is to resentfully comply. And there's a lot of information out there that shows about 55% of the population lives in this state of mind frequently. And when we are in this state of mind, we don't feel responsible for tasks that are in front of us. We don't feel responsible for relationships that are involved with us. We don't feel responsible for the outcomes and the effects that we're creating. It's a blind spot in addition, which is a bad place to be, because there's no sense of ownership. And we actually look and feel like a victim. You hear it when people say things like, oh, I have to go to work tomorrow. Oh, I have to go to that family party. Oh, I have to do this thing. Or I really should lose weight, or whatever. It's that place of resentful compliance. Another way we often react is to rebel and resist. And when we do so, we're again not feeling ownership for tasks, relationships, and outcomes. And we're actually kind of mean-spirited. Quick example, I dated this guy. He didn't wear a safety belt. My father didn't wear a safety belt, but I knew why my father didn't. This guy, I asked him, you know, just out of curiosity, why don't you wear your safety belt? And he said, I'm not letting the government control me. I said, the government isn't even in the car with us. So he was really a person that was not in freedom, wasn't considering the consequences to himself or his children, because he was a divorced father of a couple kids, wasn't feeling responsible for any of those, even the dynamic he was having with me about being so mean-spirited about it all and childish about it all. So that's kind of where it's really important to pay attention. So about 71% of the population is over on that side. People that are self-directed frequently are people that remember that I always have choices. no matter how bad the conditions or circumstances are that I face. They're slowing down, even nanoseconds, to ask, what am I feeling and what do I want? And when they do, they might say yes to things, they might say no to things, or they might come up with other options that aren't yes or no, that allow them to align with a decision that works for them. They're also considering all the, well, first of all, on the surface, a compliant behavior and a yes look the same. Yes, I'm wearing my safety belt. Yes, I'm cleaning my room. Yes, I'm doing this activity. But in one, you're going to be doing it with a rancor and often a mediocrity. The other, you're doing it from choice. You're 100% aligned with it. Same with your no. Rebelling feels very different than just saying no to something. So when you're in that state of empowerment, you're thinking through the consequences, you're accepting all the positive and negative consequences, you feel ownership for what you're doing, and your behavior is accountable. And what we mean by that is that your beliefs, your attitudes, your responsiveness, your feeling about ownership, and all of that is in alignment. And you are a fully engaged person. You're a person that people can count on. They can tell by your tone, your body language, everything, that you mean what you say and you say what you mean and you follow through. So last couple of things I want to say is that when you find yourself in this place of fear, like I recently had an experience of this with a client where we were negotiating a really huge proposal. And I went to the place of, what if I lose it, if I lose this proposal, if I don't do what this person wants? And I could tell I was in this space. So what got me out of it was to go back to my purpose and the reason I exist. And some of the purposes are things like, I want to create confidence and shine. That's Colby Coe's. My personal one is the one about helping people have a life they love. And that includes me. So I went back to that purpose. And then I went to my values. And one of the values I had to draw upon to help myself be courageous was my leadership. And I believe leadership is power within, not power over and not power under. And I was getting ready to do power under with this client. I could feel it. So I always use those, my purpose and my values, to help myself come back to balance within myself and to come back to balance with other people and to create the success that I want rather than operating from fear. So I think that's my time. I wanted to just ask for your questions now. Anybody have any questions?
Judy, what have you found to be, I know there are a lot of different things that you have to do. Is there any one, back to the question that was asked in your video there, is there any one thing that you have found most common with people that keeps them from accomplishing this?
I think part of it is that when things are discouraging for people and they have such negative feelings going on with themselves, they're so uncomfortable with that it's that rushing to a solution that is the most common problem. I would say people just need to be master being in your own skin when you're uncomfortable with compassion and curiosity. If people would just do that, and see, a lot of times when I'm working with somebody, they don't want to stay there because they feel ashamed, they feel guilty, they feel wrong, they feel, a lot of fear comes up. And so it's really about mastering me being with what's there. And then the wisdom that's there arises naturally. And sometimes it just takes a couple seconds. Anybody else? Yes?
You talked about your personal values and how you value leadership.
Yes.
Do those personal values that you use when referencing like leadership in a business setting, do you think that they are exactly the same as just your personal values for life in general, or somehow different?
It's usually a combination of both. So for me, my work and my personal purpose is the same. In my work, I want to create a world where people love their lives. So I define my core values as how do I have to be and behave in order to have a life that I love and to help others have a life that they love. And so those are very unique to me, like friendship is one of mine, surrender to God is one of mine. One of mine, though, is leadership, courage, determination. So facing this client where I was scared, I had to draw upon this is the kind of person that I'm going to show up to be no matter what happens. as opposed to getting caught up in the fear and then saying, well, I really should lower my price, Dale, or I really should compromise something that I didn't want to compromise. So your values are always defined after you know your purpose, so that they help you to achieve what you want to really be causing. I hope that answers it. Yes?
This is so fascinating, thank you. And
Oh,
I'm just
thank you.
Curious more about these inner voices and battling. Do you have any thoughts on helping people identify when it's a fear, scoldy voice as opposed to a wisdom voice?
I think most of the time we can actually feel that, and the way that I tell people to deal with that is to imagine that your fears are just right there at your front door. You let them in. Come on in. You don't say anything to them, you don't try to change them, but what happens is as you listen to them, oh gosh, what if I lose this deal? Oh gosh, what if I do it wrong? Oh gosh, and all that's coming up. You'll also start hearing these other voices if you don't run away from yourself. Like, hey, you've done this before. You know you can handle this. Oh, this is the kind of leader you like being. And so that's why you want to stay with it. It's not about changing it. In fact, don't do anything to try to change it. Be with whatever is there, because the deepest part of you is your wisdom, and it's there. Thank you. That's it.
I was just going to ask, did you win that deal?
I'm still in the process of it, but I'm feeling really balanced and whole because of the way that I'm communicating, because it's all about my inner change first, and then it reflects in the outer. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Good deal. Thank you, Judy.
Thanks.